Welcome, Pioneers, to the very first episode of Amplify PR. I'm Gina.
And I'm Fanny. You're very welcome. I'm so glad that you could join us. We are here to amplify the voices of the Strategic Communication and Public Relations graduate program community here at Sacred Heart University. Our goal is to be able to inspire growth, to celebrate achievements, to be able to engage students with insights, opportunities, but also the unique experiences that are going to be shared.
For our inaugural episode, we're incredibly excited to chat with a recent SCPR graduate from the class of 2024, Amanda Lanning. Amanda's already making waves as a marketing coordinator at Eastern Advisory Group. Her journey is a fantastic example of how our program empowers students to translate academic excellence into real-world impact. Amanda, welcome to the show.
Thank you both very much for having me. I am so excited to be back on campus.
Let's kick things off by looking back. When you first stepped into SCPR graduate program, how did you discover your passion for strategic communications? Or what led you to choose this program?
I think what led me to choosing the program was discovering what fashion PR was. So when I was in my undergrad, I had a focus more on marketing and fashion merchandising. And then in that, I discovered what fashion PR was. I had always had a love for magazines and print design. And in doing more of that research and taking a strategic communication writing course, I in turn discovered my love for PR and all things strategic communication, and it actually in turn pivoted from fashion PR to just all things PR.
Now, are you still into fashion, or is it more just like that was part of the steps to get you here?
I am definitely still into fashion. I think actually one of my favorite parts of the financial services industry that I'm in currently is how much people pay attention to fashion and love to dress up and wear suits. A kind of a funny tidbit, most of the men in my office actually engrave the inside of their suits to have their initials on them to be a little bit more personalized. And that's one of my favorite fashion things that I've noticed while working in an office. And you'd be surprised how much those kind of fashion skills and dressing up will lead to the interesting conversations.
Yes.
Especially in business or an advisory group.
That is
You would
so
not
true.
expect
Yes.
that.
Yeah.
You would not expect that at all. And they're always kind of joking around, asking for my fashion advice as well. So
That
it
is so
still comes to
cool.
play.
Yeah, it is really nice.
And I do love to dress up. So it comes to play every day, actually.
Just in a different form than you originally imagined.
Yes.
So like as Gina said that you are currently working with Eastern Advisory, could you just please tell us what does your role entail?
So right now I am the marketing coordinator for the agency as well as serving as an executive assistant to the CEO. And this role definitely scopes a lot of different aspects of the business. In terms of marketing, I control the social media accounts, the website, all print design from business cards to brochures to flyers to internal communications and events. For example, this month in November, we are organizing a canned food drive for the local Long Island community, and just a variety of things like that I'm responsible for, as well as being the assistant to the CEO currently.
That is so nice. And one thing that I wanted to ask you as well, as you were talking about all this, that you're doing social media and all that, are there some skills that you have learned here that you're doing now at your role?
Certainly. I think from the website to the social media, I have pulled inspiration from various class projects. I think one that definitely comes to mind was a group project with a few other people in my class where we had to design a brand, design the social media pages, and kind of communicate that through fruition. And that definitely has guided a lot of my social media growth and a lot of my social media strategy within Eastern Advisory Group. I have definitely pulled a lot of inspiration from those class projects.
Well, since you mentioned social media, I'm just going to go back to the conversation we had before we came on the podcast about how you're doing your own social media about PR. Do you want to talk about how kind of everything you learned here and also what you're doing in your job now kind of contributed to like doing that?
Definitely. I think that there were two factors in starting the PR page. I think the one was I have also started a social media study group within my office just to motivate social media growth for everyone in my office and to encourage starting on social media. And in turn, by doing that, it actually made me realize that I should be starting on social media myself. And it made me very reflective of my time at school, where I had told you I was a little bit more shy as a college student. And I think if I had just broken out of my shell and started the PR Instagram page that I wanted to, that I definitely could have found myself further along in this current journey. But I do also think that everything happens for a reason, and it has almost inspired me to share that story of how just if you want to do something, start today. Whether you're scared to or not, I think that was something that was always in the back of my mind, creating a PR Instagram page, and it took that initiative of constantly telling everyone else to start their own social media that it inspired me to take my own advice.
Yeah, that's so true.
So a message to listeners.
Exactly.
Start your social media page now.
You don't have to wait. Wait.
Put it to work.
Yeah.
Don't wait until you're out of school. Definitely take it from me. You want to build that while you're still in that community and around all your like-minded peers versus when you're already kind of out in the real world.
Exactly. And also, you mentioned something about the project. I'm curious to know about, is there any other project or the project that you did that where you felt like, I needed to achieve a clear business goal based on what you learned in the PR? Is there something like that?
There actually is. So during the crisis communication course that I took, we had a project, I believe, in regards to COVID-19, developing protocols for that situation. And when I was actually dealing with a little bit of, I wouldn't say a crisis communications, but more of a transitional communication period within my office, I reflected back to that project and tried to see how can we maintain consistency during some sort of transition or any kind of bumpy roads. And I think that I definitely wouldn't say that I took inspiration from the project. I think if anything, reflecting on the work that I had done built the confidence that I needed to in turn take a look at the current situation that I was dealing with and see how I could adapt or learn from it and move forward. So I definitely think that the knowledge that I learned from the crisis communication project just instilled that confidence to be able to roll with the punches and move forward from anything.
So just looking at that, you mentioned about how you also kind of went through some bumpy roads. What's the one communication strategy challenge that you faced?
I think the communication strategy that I faced most was trying to deal with consistency and trying to create that comfortability for people within a period of change. I think that change can be tough within any kind of industry or company, and I think it often is the role of the PR communications department to facilitate such change or transitions. And I think that learning how to do that in the right way and kind of learning the steps to take. And for me, it was learning how we operated beforehand and trying my best to build that consistency and keep as much the same during a period of transition. And I think that that's what I learned a lot in my projects, trying to create strategies that feel authentic and also feel smooth and don't feel forced. Yeah.
You mentioned how you had to try to figure out what they were doing beforehand. Now, I think anyone could say when you go into a job, you have to there's an adjustment period of going, okay, what are they doing? What is going on? What are the standards? And how can I contribute to what they were doing before? And now, how can I build upon that? What can you say to someone, as coming into this job, what that was like?
So for me, it was actually really unique coming into my job. So there was nobody doing marketing before I had entered the office. I was actually the blueprint for that role in my office. And it was a mixture of finding out what everybody needed and a mixture of kind of setting the standard for what my role would be. So a little bit of context. In the financial services industry, there's a lot of compliance, regulatory aspects when it comes to advertising. And what I was thrown into was not only learning and navigating how to facilitate that and kind of be the middleman between the agents in my office and compliance, regulatory, and learning all of the aspects that go into that, all the way to being able to eventually present and teach those in my office on those rules and being able to help and assist with that. And I think that that was the main barrier for me. And what I would say for people just starting out, definitely not only do your research on the company, try to see if it is the perfect fit for you in terms of not only just the role, but the aspect of everything. And that's down to your commute going to and from the job. That's who you're working with, who you're working for, and where is the office located. I think that those are kind of like all the integral things that go into first starting out at a job, like learning the landscape and where you fit. But for me, it was actually really, really unique because I was the first marketing communications individual to ever work in my office before. And it's kind of almost transitioned to where in 2026, I'm aiming to have a few marketing interns to assist me. And that has, like, it's almost grown the scope of my role just because of how much has to go into the marketing. And I think that developing your spot always just comes down to navigating what's actually going on. And within my office, there was actually a large need for someone in my role to facilitate that compliance approval. And it's definitely become an even larger role now. So I'm glad that you asked that question because
I think we can relate too, because we are the first graduate assistants for the SCPR program.
Wow.
So we're kind of trying to, this is us.
Exactly,
to set the blueprint.
So true. And you mentioned about something that's a lot of students or a lot of us, we don't see it as we get into a role. Like, you need to find out what the role is, understand what it is all about before you venture into it. And that is really so insightful, very helpful. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, of course. And even building off of that, what I spoke about in a presentation to a class earlier today was, I know in this current job market and landscape, it almost seems like you have to sell yourself to the employer.
Yeah.
But what I would in turn say, and if I was looking back at my job and career journey, it's more also about, are they selling the experience to you as well? Like, I think as a communications individual, it is important to be knowing the landscape of the company that you're entering and asking those important questions and just making sure that everything is on the same page as well. I think that we almost get a little bit, I don't want to say scared, but in an interview, it almost feels like you're selling yourself versus, okay, are you asking the right questions, making sure that it is the right fit for you? And I think I did a good job of that when I was interviewing for my current job. But I think in the past, when I was interviewing for a lot of internships, I was doing the opposite a lot of the time.
That actually leads into my next question. So you've been through the program, and we are required to have an internship. Can you expand on how you went about that, or any tips or advice about students trying to find internships and going through the interviewing process?
Yeah, so how I had found my internship, I actually continued on with a fashion merchandising internship that I had from undergrad. Okay. So I was doing a lot of work with a fashion company focused on the dance costume industry. And in that role, I had already had a relationship with the company, but in this internship, I was doing a lot more branding, working on the development of a new brand. And for me, when it comes to internships, I think that what I would say is do as many as you can. When I look back, I wish I had done more. And I wish that I had almost tried a lot more different avenues. And I think that I almost pivoted myself to focus on one thing because I thought, I want to get as much experience as possible.
Yeah.
Whereas if I could go back, I would probably try a lot more things. And kind of like a second part of that question, I had another internship after that at a PR agency where I was shadowing the strategic team. And what I learned in that internship was that I was not kind of looking to work in a PR agency. And I know that was definitely what was actually recommended more. Like when I was in the program, it was kind of recommended to start out at a PR agency and learn that way. But what I learned was that it was a really wonderful environment being around like-minded individuals, but I actually found that in my first experience, my first kind of like career, I wanted to be able to see projects through fruition. And when I was at the PR agency, I was kind of only focusing on one aspect of a project, whether that was like the strategy, the planning, development, but I was never seeing the actual execution of the event, etc. So that's when I pivoted and realized that I was kind of more looking for a role that would encompass a lot and where I would be interacting with like every facet of the business like I am today.
Yeah.
And I think that what I would say is if you're looking for internship experience, try your best to try a lot of different avenues. Don't just do one kind of internship in different industries. Try to do a lot of different experiences just to get as much as you can and see. It's almost more seeing what you don't like, and that leads you even closer to your dream job.
Well, that leads to how did you take that experience with those internships, even if they weren't what you were looking for, or even what you're doing now? How did you translate that to get the position you're in now?
I think that it's all about building and maintaining relationships. How I got that PR agency shadow opportunity was through...
Which a lot of students, we do not want to do.
Don't talk, don't meet people.
No, we would not do that.
Events.
No, I would just apply to the job and that's it. Yeah, continue.
No cover letter.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that's actually how I landed. Almost all of my internships was through relationships. How I got that first fashion one was through a relationship. My aunt owns a dance studio and she had a relationship with that dance costume company. And the same as the PR agency, I had a relationship with the owner of the agency and she gracefully invited me. So I don't think I would have gotten that kind of invitation to a smaller PR agency if I hadn't built those connections. And I believe it's actually the same as my job currently. I think every day it's all about building and nurturing meaningful relationships. I think social media is tough where sometimes it's like you can connect with someone online and that's okay. Like we have those more informal connections, but I think at the end of the day, like those who you meet at those networking events or someone who you meet at school or at work, it's like I say this all the time. I'm trying to treat work like I treated college and network, connect with everybody on LinkedIn, follow everybody on Facebook if that's what they use. It's just kind of trying to like build those deeper relationships because you never know in 5 years what anyone is going to be doing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, that was so great. Thank you so much. You shared so much information, and we're very glad to have you on here. For all the current SCPR students listening, especially those aspiring to careers in corporate communication, marketing coordination, or advisory services, like at Eastern Advisory Group, what's one piece of advice you'd give them to bridge the gap between their coursework and landing a professional career like yours? I think you covered this a little bit, but if you want to give like one solid piece of advice.
I think the one solid piece of advice would to be make the mistakes now.
Nice.
I was really, really scared of making mistakes as a student. And it was just because like I said earlier, I was just very shy, scared of putting myself out there.
Yeah.
But what you don't want is to graduate with this excellent degree and to have been held back by your own mindset or your preconceived notions. And I think that by putting yourself out there more and doing the things that scare you now, it puts you in a better position because, for example, I was terrified of posting on social media in college. It was something that scared me.
And now you want to do it.
And now it's not even that I want to do it. I feel the passion and the desire to do it. And it's something that I wish I could go back and tell myself, like, just don't be scared, like make the mistake, because the only way that you learn is by actually doing. Like, we can read all the case studies we want, but if you don't actually get that experience and you don't put yourself in the position to learn and grow, then you're just going to stay in the same place.
I think that's great advice.
Yeah,
and I think we all can learn something from that.
I have learned a lot. Make mistakes, it's okay. We can do this.
Join LinkedIn, use it religiously.
Don't let your first LinkedIn post be your graduation post. That's coming from me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's a fantastic note to end on. Amanda, thank you so much for joining us on the Amplify PR today and sharing your incredible insights and journey.
Thank you both for having me. I really appreciate it. I've had a wonderful time.
Thank you so much. And so that's a wrap on our very first episode of Amplify PR. And many thanks to our guest, Amanda Lanning, for showing us how to use strategic communication with purpose and precision in the patient world.
Journey is a testament to the power of a SHU SCPR education. If you enjoyed this episode, please hit that subscribe button and share it with your fellow pioneers and leave us a review.
And maybe you also have the story. You'd like to share that story with us. You can do that by submitting them to SCPR@gmail.com. That's SCPR@gmail.com.
Until next time, keep amplifying your voice louder and smarter.